And good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Sports Talk. I'm Mr. Jim, joined tonight, as usual, by the Star Lord Chris Pratt and Adam Lewis, one of our broadcasters over at Prepcast.com. Good evening, gentlemen.
Yeah, good evening. How's it going?
Very, very well. And before we get started with the breaking news, we will talk briefly again about Usha's alterations and tailoring, guys. She's a major sponsor of the program. Usha Bishnapuri at 558 Gravoy Road. Phone number 314-238-4612. I'm sure they're breathing a sigh of relief as prom season more or less officially has come to an end. Wedding season still in full force. Eddie, you may or may not have heard me talking about Usha. They did a podcast with me a couple months back, and I was absolutely stunned. She works on 500 gowns a quarter. So in this quarter that we're in right now, where the proms are taking place and weddings, Usha works on around 500 gowns. Every time I go in to see her, during prom this past quarter, there's been a young lady in there with her mom, trusting Usha with the work that she does and all of her alterations. I've had 3 zippers put into black pants that I wear for work, and she is unbelievable with the work that she does. And again, it's Usha Bishnapuri, 558 Gravoy Road. She does men's alterations as well as ladies' alterations. Ladies, I think she said, were 80% of her retail business. They're in the old Commerce Bank building on the old Gravoy Road in Fenton. And once again, welcome in, gentlemen. As I mentioned to you all earlier this afternoon, about 3 o'clock, I'm at work and I get the breaking news that the commissioner, Rob Manfredi, has lifted the bans on Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson. Adam, new to the show, your comments to start, sir.
I think it's a great decision made by the commissioner. I mean, these are two undoubtedly Hall of Fame players, and they deserve their due to be in with the rest of the unbelievable players over the years. And I mean, no matter what you got to say about the controversies that they were involved in, you cannot doubt their greatness and the impact that they had on the sport of baseball. So it's absolutely far too gone, and incredibly important that they're back in there.
Chris?
Well, I'm kind of torn on this because I recognize the impact that Shoeless Joe Jackson had in the early days of baseball. I think had it not been for the Black Sox scandal, he would have gone down along with Ty Cobb as two of the greatest hitters ever. Shoeless Joe obviously was denied putting up his career numbers, but I think it's easy to say he would have easily had 3,000 hits. Ty would have challenged Cobb for the best batting average of all time. But with Shoeless Joe there was enough evidence to link him with the other members of the White Sox on the Black Sox scandal. I don't think that I think it's an overlooking by the commission. I think you have to look at what caused his ban, and you have to look at what caused Pete Rose's ban. With Pete Rose, he didn't do anything as a player to earn a ban. I agreed that he shouldn't have been named while as a manager, even though he wasn't throwing games. He was betting on his own team to win, which technically isn't against any rules that I'm aware of. It's just the ruling that came down because of the Black Sox team. I have absolutely no problems with Pete Rose being allowed under Hall of Fame. I've been an advocate of Pete Rose that he should have been allowed. I did agree with him that he should not have access to another position within Major League Baseball. But I think it just kind of shows the ineptitude of the commissioner that instead of looking at each and just making a decision regarding Pete Rose independently of the Black Sox players, you come overarching and then unban everybody. And I think Shoeless Joe, because of the evidence against him, could have remained on the never to be allowed in the Hall of Fame because he did throw a World Series, and there should be repercussions there. And I don't believe in time served either.
Pete Rose, I would think here at this point, I was thinking about this, the commissioner, I don't know if he would have the power to go ahead and get them in right away. I guess they'd have to go through the election process.
Mm-hmm.
But I would not think, I mean, when the next ballots come due, when do the next ballots come due for Cooperstown?
Late, it's February or March, if I remember correctly.
February or March, so they've got a little ways to wait. Is there any reason not to believe at this point that whenever they get the voting for the next year's class, that these two gentlemen don't get in pretty unanimously at this point, or am I grasping at straws or just so far off with this that the writers of today, they wouldn't have any problem, would they, putting these gentlemen in? Adam?
I certainly think that there could be some writers who have a problem with it. But at the end of the day, 30, 40, 50 years ago, even farther back for Shoeless Joe Jackson, these guys are first ballot Hall of Famers. And there's no doubt in my mind that they would have been allowed in Cooperstown as soon as possible if it wasn't for these scandals. So I think as long as all writers are in agreement, they can put that to the side after the time that they have spent not being allowed in. There's no doubt in my mind that they can make it in.
I read this story just before we went on the air, and apparently he has now lifted all deceased players, that any deceased player right now has the right to be on the ballot if there are any more. And I really didn't see any more players that are in the same situation as Rose and Jackson were in. Were there any players that you were aware of other than Rose and Jackson that were in the same boat?
No, the only people that this affects is Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson, really. The rest of the Black Sox players, there was nobody none of the other Black Sox players would have, even if they had finished their careers, I don't know if any of them, other than the one pitcher, was it Eddie Chikati, or I forget the name of the pitcher, but he might have had an outside chance. The thing with the Hall of Fame voting, I do believe Pete Rose gets in. I don't think there's going to be any question because of the all-time hits leader. He's done enough in his career. There's no question. Shoeless Joe, I don't know, because again, there was evidence to support that he was part of the group to throw it. And I think that you may have some. There's not any of the old school writers left, like Red Barber. A lot of the old-time writers that had Hall of Fame credentials now gone. So I don't know how many people are going to be familiar, but I think if they do the research, that might be a hurdle. And then also his career numbers. I don't know that Shoeless Joe Jackson has enough numbers to even warrant Hall of Fame inclusion. Yes, he batted 400, but he doesn't have any of the automatic. He doesn't have 3,000 hits. He doesn't have 500 home runs. You can make the case like they did with Kirby Puckett, who died. Had Kirby Puckett been allowed to finish his career, he probably would have had the automatic number. So they might look at Shoeless Joe that way, but again, you have to look at, why did Shoeless Joe career end so quickly? And it's because he was banned from baseball for failing the World Series. So I don't know that he. Again, it's hard to predict because you have players like Ken Griffey Jr. who come up from the Hall of Fame who should have been unanimous, and they don't vote him in unanimously, but they vote Mariano Rivera in unanimously. So you can't predict what sports writers are going to do because half of them are so biased and unpredictable with their voting. It just doesn't make any sense.
I have said that I believe that Albert Pujols, who is 2 years from a ballot, is he retired 3 now, or is it 4?
He went the 20. When was the last time the Cardinals? Was it 21 or 22?
So he's still he'll approach 4, Adam. Is that how you see it? He'll approach 4 years.
Yeah, because he retired when the last time the Cardinals made the playoffs. I think that was 2021, so he's now 4 years removed.
I would, in my opinion, one of the greatest of all time. I can't see any way that he is not a unanimous first ballot selection. And I'd hold every one of those writers responsible his first year of eligibility, saying, you explain to me why this man is not in on the first ballot. In your mind, how could he not be in? I would expect, as Rivera was, that he'll get in his first year unanimously.
Well, again, I mean, he should. I wholeheartedly agree with you. But again, you have sports writers who somebody who should be an automatic, and they don't vote for him for whatever reason. Whether it be a bias, like I could very easily see a Chicago, sports writer who's got Hall of Fame credentials not voting just because Pujols destroyed the guy.
Yeah,
and they'll hold that against him, even though you look at what the body of work is. One of four players. Yeah, four players to hit 700 home runs. If that's not automatic, I don't know what is.
Adam, any closing comments on what transpired today, or any other thoughts you might have on the subject?
I mean, I think it's great that these guys are finally going to get the opportunity to get into Cooperstown. Just because personally, I believe that they're both Hall of Famers. But ultimately, it's not my decision. It's something that we just kind of wait around and see if it's ever going to actually come true.
Well spoken, guys. Well spoken. I want to take this time to recognize a few of our other sponsors before we get on to the subject of the surprising St. Louis Cardinals. First of all, I've talked about him multiple times. Kim Hamilton over at Off the Hook Embroidery. It's Kim Hamilton for all your embroidery needs. I go through him in Florida. Maybe you think I flipped my lid by doing that, but Kim does this cap I have on my head. He did this cap. He's done 2 baseball jackets for me. I'm about to place an order for shirts here shortly, I believe. With Kim, he's just really, really good at what he does on his embroidery. He's available at offthehookllc.com. And Adam, you're probably not aware of this, but my embroiderer is also a cigar expert. He and his wife both smoke cigars. The last podcast that I did, which was about a month ago, Kim was coming from his backyard and he was relaxing. He'd just gotten off of his other job and he was relaxing with the cigar. Kim carries over 300 brands of cigars in his inventory, and he sells a lot of them. I was really surprised by, some of the countries that do have them. The country that I thought he would get quite a bit from, I had forgotten. We really don't do business with Cuba all that much anymore. So he gets an awful lot of them from other countries. But he had a vehicle, and that vehicle is down for repairs. But apparently he's got 2 vehicles, and he said once in a while they do rent a vehicle from him, and they do go out and smoke cigars in this vehicle. They have smokers regularly, and he is a cigar aficionado. Over 300 brands in stock. You can reach Kim at online at info@odhcigars.com. Chris, I'll let you know that I went on to his shop, his online shop, and I bought one of his belts, one of his ratchet belts that don't require the holes. Fairly expensive belt. I won't tell you how much I paid for it, but I've started toward. I wore it at the golf tournament that you had on Saturday. It's okay. Takes a little while to get used to a ratchet belt, but it was nice. And I bought one of his black caps with his logo on it, which is the I think it's the spade with the golf ball in the back. But Kim Hamilton is available at 1-443-226-1206. He's another sponsor that we have, and I will be very quick with this one. K&S Maintenance Services. Steph and Army, wife and I are currently trying to get a reasonable bid from Steph on doing a walk-in shower upstairs. His phone number is 636-428-9164. The man is insured for up to $2 million. Gives you 15% off services. Both he and Kim Hamilton mentioned Mr. Jim, MRJIM. Whether you're ordering in an online shop, it's supposed to give you an online discount whenever you buy services from both these gentlemen. Again, sponsors include K&S Maintenance Services. We also have Kim Hamilton, Off the Hook Embroidery, and Usha with Usha's Alterations and Tailoring. Now the subject, gentlemen, that we can spend a lot of time in a great fashion, surprising fashion, talking about our St. Louis Cardinals. What a last couple of weeks it has been. Adam, again, since your first appearance on the show, what are your impressions of this very impressive 9-game win streak?
Well, I think John Gruden effect is extremely real. I mean, since that guy came around, it's all been positive for the Cardinals. But on a realer note, I think the biggest thing for the Cardinals these last couple of years especially has been kind of the lacking in the pitching department. And that's really been a key aspect for them during this 9-game win streak. I believe they're as a team, a 2.00 ERA. I mean, that's first in the league throughout this 9-game winning streak. Their batting has been pretty consistent, in my opinion, throughout the season. But really, we've seen the pitching step up, the bullpen step up massively for this club. And that's really what's been leading them to the promised land with this 9-game win streak. And they're right back in it for the top of that Central Division with the Cubs.
Chris, I know you have a lot to say. Please, you have the floor, sir.
Well, I mean, it's when you put your best lineup out there. And again, I was hoping that Nolan Gorman would turn things around, but he just didn't seem to put things together. You have to put Brendan Donovan in the lineup. You've got some decent outfielders, although Jordan Walker is still trying to figure things out. That's the weak link in the lineup as far as I'm concerned right now. Contreras turned it around as we expected. We expected Mason to turn it around. Nootbaar has been hitting exceptionally well. Victor Scott just took the reins and said, okay, center field is now mine, and he's not giving up. He's not going to give up that position, and rightfully so, the way he's playing. Fetty, they're giving him a shot. He threw a complete game the other day. Liberatore seems to have finally figured things out. He's pitching well. He got command of his pitches. Sonny Gray is giving you what we expected out of him. The relievers are doing exceptionally well. I'm really impressed with the young kid that last night who came in and pitched, 2 innings in some pressure situations. And the kid seems like he's got ice water running through his veins because he didn't even phase it. He just came in there, started mowing people down, got out of a tight spot. Jojo Romero still has 5 ERA, but he's pitching better. And like I said, when you're taking the weak links out of your lineup and you're putting in people who are getting on base, getting hits together, this team is not as strikeout prone as they had been. Good things are happening. And, I'd like to see the young players taking advantage of their opportunities because you had to look at Liberatore and wonder how many more chances is he going to have. He's finally making the most of it, and he's a left-handed pitcher we needed in the starting line. He's giving you quality outing, and you can't really ask any more of the players of what we've been getting because they're hanging up. I mean, I was watching the game last night.
Yeah.
They get the home run, and then the Phillies come back in the bottom half of their inning, string a couple of blue hits together, and tie the game. And then the Cardinals get the other run, and then the Phillies, end up capitalizing, and then the Cardinals get no more. Mason Wynn hits the go-ahead home run. The bullpen shuts everything down. And 9 games in the major leagues, it's hard to put together that long of a win streak, especially, they're not, the Phillies are obviously a quality team that's going to be a playoff caliber team. And, we'll see what the Cardinals are doing. I mean, I like what I'm seeing because you're starting to see the consistency in some of the players that you wanted to see. I hope Jordan Walker can finish putting things together. Burleson was one that I'm hoping he can turn it around because, I'd like to see Burleson in the lineup a little bit more often, especially if Jordan Walker continues to struggle.
And Chris, I really do like Alec Burleson, but I also understand as well that you have to be consistent at this point, and he's got to pick that consistency up in order to stay in the lineup. I know he's hanging on by a thread at this point. I don't think he's in any imminent danger of being sent down. Where do you think the club is at? I know we had Colin Surrey on a couple months ago before this season really got in full bloom, and Colin said just to be extremely patient with Nolan Gorman. How patient is patience at this point as far as Nolan Gorman is concerned?
Well, again, he's doing what we expected of him. He's very strikeout prone. He goes up there, he swings for the fences, and once he's down 0-2, he's not one that is going to. He's bad at protecting. And so again, his strikeouts started creeping up, batting average started going down, and until he's showing that he's worthy of getting that starting nod at second base, I think he's just a spot starter for when if Donovan needs a day off, or if an outfielder, and then you put Donovan in the outfield and you put Gorman at second. But again, the sample size is large enough on Gorman that until he proves us otherwise, I think we know what Gorman is going to be. He's going to be a 25 to 30 home run guy who's going to lead the league in strikeouts and struggle to hit over the Mendoza.
That's pretty much, I guess, where things are at this point. Jordan Walker, patience as well.
Well, I think he's not as strikeout prone. From what I've seen, he is putting the ball into play. He put the hit streak together, but I think you have to look at right now. I mean, if I remember correctly from last night, he's not even hitting 200. And so, if that's the case, then you have to look at what is. He's batting 180 with 2 home runs, 12 RBIs. And right now, he has 43 strikeouts. So I think if there's another outfield option, you have to start considering it because, again, the Cardinals are finding success because there isn't that wearing 2 to 3 hitters in the lineup that you can easily work around. You got Jordan Walker, who's still going to put the ball in play. But if you can find another outfielder who's going to, be a threat to get on base, and with a little power, I think you have to figure what's the best interest of the team. You've given Walker enough opportunities, and while last year he did hit, 240, I think, 250, the power numbers aren't developing. And whether that's when the Cardinals screwing with him, with the swing, I don't know. But, if the Cardinals are serious about making a push and continuing their winning ways, you have to look at what's in the best interest of the team. And while his defense is greatly improved, I mean, I saw the game or the play he made to steal the game last night. He had to range really far into right center, to make the catch, but he made it, running catch. But again, offense, it's a game of offense and defense. And if he's not giving you the offense, you've got some other rookies that have shown, like, what was it, Sagisi? He has shown some promise, so that's a guy that I'd like to see in the lineup a little bit more often. I don't know if he can play outfield, but, Donovan has shown that he could. Although I'd rather have Donovan at second because I think he's going to give you Gold Glove caliber defense. And him and Mason Wynn up the middle, it's kind of hard to find a better, second base shortstop combination.
The pitching starting pitching. Who could have envisioned that this was going to shake out over the last 3 or 4 weeks the way it has shook out? Pitchers going longer. Fetty throws a complete game for the Cardinals. Palante goes A+. Last Saturday, Sonny Gray pitching his usual 6 to 7 innings of consistency at this point. And the guy that not afraid to admit right now that maybe I should have been a little bit more patient with, Miles Mikolas, is starting to come out of his funk. So go ahead.
The thing we liked about Mikolas is he took responsibility.
He
he
did.
wasn't shying away from it. He wasn't making excuses. He came right out and said, "I'm not pitching to the level that I should be." And he's a veteran pitcher, and it was just give him. I wanted to give him some time to see if he could start putting things together. He's lost some velocity. He's not going to blow anybody away with his fastball. So he's going to have to be like a Greg Maddux. He's going to have to be able to pitch on both sides of the plate, command up and down, and keep hitters off balance. And if he can do that, he's got the tools that he can be successful. And I think that's what he's done. Is he's figured out how to keep hitters off balance, and thus changing his season.
We're about 26 minutes into our podcast. Unfortunately, it looks like right now we lost Adam Lewis on the podcast. Maybe he'll come back. I do want to let our listeners out there know that starting Tuesday, June 3rd, that's the game plan anyway, starting Tuesday, June 3rd, we're going to try to start doing the Sports Talk program from JP's Sports Bar in Eureka. I talked to John last night, and he seems enthused. Sent him a sample of our work. Seems to be enthused with us using his sports bar. And I think that we're going to try to move that out, move our Sports Talk out there to his bar. Starting Tuesday, June the 3rd. We'll see how the logistics work out for this. This will be the first experiment to getting Sports Talk going from another locale, but I think we're going to give it a go. It's JP's Sports Bar. He is in Eureka. He's in Eureka, not far from Six Flags. This gentleman, I've known him for a long time, well over 3 decades. John is a pool player. He likes to play pool, and he has put together a team. I think his team from the sports bar, they actually have gone, Chris, into national competition. They've gone, I think, 2 or 3 years to national competition and have finished, I think, in second place a couple years in a row. So when you play pool with John Pedrola, you're playing with one of the best players around and his team. So I want everybody to keep this in mind that I believe Tuesday, June the 3rd, we're going to go remotely from JP's Sports Bar. That's the game plan anyway for Tuesday, June the 3rd. As far as announcers are concerned at this point, I believe we're going to have Jim Plyman aboard on May the 20th. I haven't got anybody lined up right now, Chris, to join us on the 27th of May. But again, that game plan can change at this point. Chris, any other sports topics that you'd like to address at this time?
Well, I just wanted to say congrats to the Blues on a good season. It didn't end the way they wanted to. I mean, obviously we had that game, and whether they got nervous, I'm not sure exactly what took place, but they had victory. Just snatched away from them. It was unfortunate. The turnout. Especially with it being 3 seconds left in the game and they tie it.
I think it was more like 1.6.
Oh, yeah, 1.6.
1 point. That time will forever be in my mind. 1.6 as it was slid across and beat Bennington. In my head, I continue to say to myself, what is so hard, Chris, about clearing a puck? But apparently for the St. Louis Blues, it is a problem to clear the puck out of your zone.
Well, I think, like I said, I don't know if they were just, nervous because every time they were, the 6-on-5 when Winnipeg would pull their goalie, Winnipeg would score. And I think the Blues didn't have a very good history of trying to play shorthanded because you're not playing penalty. You're on full speed, and they've got an extra attacker. And Winnipeg was just able to keep the pressure on, and when you've got the one guy that and what happened was the one guy got open, just hit a shot, and I don't fault Bennington because a lot of those shots were either misdirected or he just didn't have a prayer because he didn't see it. As I was watching the game, the thing that I was really concerned about though was Robert Thomas, especially in overtime. He's got a tremendous slap shot, and he had opportunity that he was passing it off. And I'm like, you are dead center, middle ice. You've got a shot. Why not take it? But it seemed like he got timid. The defense, again, having issues clearing it. Like I said, I don't know if the Blues were playing nervous. I don't know exactly what happened because, they came out playing aggressive, and then still aggressive in the second, and then the third came around. And about the 10-minute mark, they just seemed to be, I don't know if they were gassed. I don't know what happened. There was just a different team. And Winnipeg obviously willed themselves to win. I'm not going to criticize Winnipeg. They came out and they did what they needed to do to win the game. And
took them 7 games. Blues took them 7 games. Took them to overtime of Game 7 before it was decided. Nothing, obviously, to hang our heads about at this point. And most fans that were calling into the sports station the next morning were saying, looking forward to everybody's return for this coming season. Chris, just kind of looking at the scoreboard, I noticed that Stars are up on the Jets 1-0, I think, in the second period. Right now, if I had to guess who's going to the Cup final, looks to me like it's going to be Edmonton and probably the Florida Panthers.
Can't really say I disagree with you. I wouldn't. I don't know if you would. I'm not ready to count Washington out yet because you've got such veterans on that team.
Right.
I think that series is going to get very interesting. But at this point, I mean, you've got the powerhouse, in Edmonton. You've got the Florida Panthers that are, again, a very dominant team. But with Winnipeg, I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if the winner of the Dallas-Winnipeg series ends up going only because you've got two teams that have been at the top of the division for most of the hockey season, if not all the hockey season. And again, I think with Winnipeg getting past the Blues, I think that may have solidified that team because they were obviously nervous. I mean, they didn't know how to handle the Blues at home. Meaning in St. Louis. And then when they're on the brink of elimination, and they never gave up. So Winnipeg to me is a very dangerous team, rightfully so. Dallas is a very talented team. And like I said, Washington Capitals. That team has. You want to talk about a team that has been on emotional highs once Ovechkin did what he did, and that's a team just full of veterans who have been there before. And I would not be surprised if Washington turns that series around and makes a strong push for the Cup.
And I'm not taking anything away from Craig Berube in Toronto either. They can certainly still make a point in this series. I don't know what it is, Chris. It seems like Edmonton is peaking at the right time.
They are. I mean, they've been playing very well. And again, momentum is everything. And if you've got momentum, you've got the players all in sync. That can take you far in the playoffs. Because again, it's like you hit the reset button. and with what's been going on, I agree with you with that thing. But like I said, it's I'm not 100% sold on them yet. I'm not, just because I don't know. I mean, it could be just I didn't see enough of Edmonton this year. That could be it.
How did I?
Yeah, but I mean, they are peaking. And I do think, like I said, Winnipeg is going to be a team to look out for, only because I think they went through quite the test against the Blues, and I think with them overcoming that, I think it tells a lot about who that team is, and that the Leaders were able to solidify that team, keep them focused when it looked like they were about to lose. And like I said, you get to 1.6 seconds, and rather than giving up, they're still on the attack. Most teams at that point are like, we're done. And yet 1.6 seconds, they bury it in the net. And we're like, we're sitting there going like, I can't believe that just happened.
That was kind of my sentiment too. After I saw it go, we're going to go into overtime, and I don't have a good feeling about this, but it just is what it is. Our sports talk program tonight, once again, brought to you by Usha's Alterations and Tailoring at 558 Gravois Road. She does everything from prom and wedding dresses to any type of pants that you might have. Chris, I went in there one time and she was working on a guy's overalls. Doing alterations to his overalls. I don't know what the problem was with his overalls, but she was doing the alterations on that. She's fairly efficient. You give her a date when you need to have it, and she'll come through for you on things. It is 314-238-4612. Again, Jim Plyman next week on May the 20th, Tuesday, May 20th. Jim Plyman joins us. And then we'll have one more of the podcast from the remote here at this point, from my base. And then I think, again, we're going to move over to Eureka, hopefully, with JP's Sports Bar, and see how that works out. Like to have that going for the summer. Did talk to John about maybe having that as our base. For the summer, there's still some things to be worked out with that, but we're hoping to have JP Sports Bar aboard as a primary sponsor moving forward. And for that matter, those of you that have heard the show, those of you that have heard the show at this point and would like to become a sponsor of the show, we do have sponsorships available. You can give me a call at 314-640-7492. You can look me up on Facebook under Podcast with Mr. Jim. Also, the Star-Lord Chris Pratt, as Chris brings his new arrival, Lucy. Hello, Lucy. Hello, sweetie. Brings Lucy onto the podcast with him. Chris, tell us about Lucy.
Yeah, she's a 4-month-old lab pit bull mix. We got her from Open Door Rescue. We were actually at the Elks Youth event, which was a week ago this past Sunday. And Lucy was one of the dogs up for adoption. And needless to say, Liz immediately fell in love with her.
Sure.
And it's understandable why.
I can tell.
She is adorable.
She is adorable.
And the next thing we knew, we were signing the paperwork. Okay, you went down. Okay. We brought her home. It'll be 1 week ago tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a good pup, but it's a puppy, so I'm
sure
through the Velociraptor phase where
the scars, the battle scars of having a pet. I've been there.
So but it's an adjustment. I mean,
sure it is.
We're doing what we need to do and taking care of her and just trying to get her fully housebroken. Yeah, I mean, it'll all come together, and we'll be, things will be back to normal. It's just right now that, we're so focused on getting her that she's remembering we're not going to house, but we're finding out that the pit bull part of her, which is very stubborn. She was in a shelter for 4 months of her life where she just simply went whenever she needed to go.
Sure.
And from what the vets are telling us, pits are very stubborn. Once they develop a habit, it's hard to break into that habit.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping it'd be more of the Labrador, which Labradors, I had Labradors growing up, and they're the easiest because they're just very serious and they just go you keep repetition and they figure it out. We'll take her outside during the day for whatever reason. She'll play outside. She loves outside, but the minute we bring her in, she goes to the bathroom inside. So.
Well, you're gonna have fun breaking her of some of those habits. That's all the fun of. That all goes into the fun of having a pet. Once again, I want to thank those that are following us on Facebook and YouTube. We're growing viewership at this point. Quite happy actually with the last few weeks as far as the views are concerned with our program. And again, if you would like to get a push from me, a sponsorship, I will give you at least one or two verbal pushes per each one of our podcasts. And we try to have a sports talk podcast every Tuesday night. And again, we're going to try, I believe, this remote from JP's Sports Bar on Tuesday, June the 3rd, to see how the logistics go with this, see how we react to being at a different location. If you would like to come out Tuesday, June 3rd, please say hi to Mr. Jim and Chris Pratt. I believe it'll just be us two. I think that's how I'm going to initially start as Chris. It's just us two. And then I'm hoping to have John. I'm sure John will join us to talk about, I'd love to have him talk about the sports bar and how long he's had it. I really want to say he's had the sports bar the better part of 25 years, and it may even be longer than that. So the man definitely knows how to run a sports bar. There's a lot of great looking TVs in the bar. It's kind of a very homely atmosphere. And obviously when I arrived Monday night, there were plenty of pool players at the table. So John has definitely acquired a clientele of pool players, and our table will be very close to the pool playing area when that time comes. And again, we're roughly about 2.5, 3 weeks from actually bringing that to you. I'll have more information for you in the coming weeks about that. I want to thank Adam Lewis as well for joining us. For the first time, we lost his signal a little bit earlier. My apologies for that, but really appreciate Adam joining us. Chris, as always, I appreciate you joining us. Again, when we come back next Tuesday night, we will have Jim Plyman making his first appearance with Prepcast.com. He'll be joining us here. Jim is one of the senior members of Prepcast. The earlier podcast, I had the owner, Tim Miller, on a Conversations, and Tim will be back with us, I believe, on a Conversations Monday night program. I'm going to have him on the night before we broadcast from JP Sports Bar. Tim's going to come back on with us, talk about his new logo and some new acquisitions that Tim has as far as broadcasting duties are concerned. So that'll be something to look forward to. I want to thank everybody tonight for tuning in. Again, for Adam Lewis, the Star-Lord Chris Pratt, I am Mr. Jim. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This sports talk goes out to Facebook. It'll probably be on there within the next couple of hours. It also will stream on YouTube in the next day or so. And so you can always check us out. Again, the Facebook page is Podcast with Mr. Jim. Again, thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. Thanks to all of our major sponsors as well. For the crew here at Sports Talk, this is Mr. Jim saying you folks have a wonderful night. And again, thanks for tuning in to us. We'll see you next week.
Take care, everybody.